right now.
Okay.
You and I need to talk and kind of work that out, right? All right,
Yeah.
Dan, welcome aboard, man. I know that you were in. I know you were in St. Louis last week. I'm Lloyd Lawson with Power Behind the Cells. This is Dan with
WebPres.
Video. Welcome aboard. You were in St. Louis last week, right?
Yeah, just spent some time with the kids back there and looking at some property, and got in late last night, but feeling good this morning, and anxious to interview our guest today.
Yeah, we've got last week we had a great conversation. In fact, I went back and rewatched it to take some of the notes from some of the stuff you said. We had a great conversation about illustration software, and I thought it would be good to have on an expert for illustration software. So I want to bring on Tim Turner. Tim, welcome.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me on today, guys.
Hello,
Tim's
Tim.
Tim's in Atlanta, Georgia. Let me tell you a little bit about, in full disclosure, I've done business with Tim in the past, just so that everybody knows. He's a mentor with Insurance WebEx. I'm a mentor with Insurance WebEx. We met through there. We've done some webinars together. But let me tell you a couple of reasons why I brought him on, and a couple of things I think you'll find interesting about Tim. And I could have this off. If my dates are off, you don't have to correct me. But if my facts are off, correct me. But Tim invented the first online calculator, I think in 1994. So before 1994, if you wanted to know what 2 plus 2 is, you either had to have one of those handheld calculators, you couldn't go to Google and type it in, and Tim invented the first online calculator. The second interesting thing about him is he's a programmer. So his retirement view software program, he coded the whole thing. He wrote the entire thing. Now here's the third thing that's interesting, and this is what really struck my interest when I first started talking to him in terms of working with advisors in retirement software. You know, all that legal stuff is kind of complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got to get the RMDs correct. You've got to get the distributions correct. You got to know all your stuff. And by happenstance, Tim is also an attorney.
Yeah.
So he checks off all those boxes. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys. So Tim, tell us a little bit about, well, first, why, I started with John Hancock in 1977. And when I started with John Hancock, they handed me a binder about this thick with dividers in it. And they handed me a booklet that had applications in it. And literally, it's Alton, Illinois, and they handed me the phone book for Alton, Illinois and said, go to work, come back and have some business at the end of the week. That's how I learned it. If I wanted to know how the calculations work, I had to go through the page, look up an LP85, go to the age, scroll, go down, and figure all that crap on my own. Today, most carriers have software where you can figure up the rate. So my first question to you, and then you throw your questions in. I don't want to take this over. My first question to you is, why should advisors use illustration software?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I do have to kind of correct one of your facts there, Lloyd.
Darn it.
I invented the first retirement calculator, not the first calculator.
All right.
It wasn't, 2 plus 2 equals 4. That somebody had already done that.
I'm making a note of that right here.
Make a note. Just it's a very small item, but yeah, I started developing web calculators back in 1994, 93, 94. And I put it on our own website, which was also phenomenal that we had a website. But I did that for marketing. Okay, back to your question. It's about mainly why advisors should use illustration software in their prospect meetings.
Software for agents and advisors. Why do they need software other than what the carriers provide?
Okay, well, the main thing is the carriers are providing illustrations that are specific to a certain product. So if you get an annuity or an IUL or a whole life, different types of products, those illustrations are specific to, for example, the income or the returns on a product. And here's a sample illustration that gives you an example of how this product performs using either hypothetical data or actual S&P data. And so the purpose of it is like, okay, if you put $100,000 into this annuity, here's a sample illustration that'll project the performance of it potentially, and it's got all kinds of disclaimers on it. So it's very limited usefulness to a prospect. They're like, so what? And they don't understand the annuity anyway. So what people really want to know is, am I going to run out of money? That's what they want to know. The annuities and the IUL can be a tool. It can be a way that someone could help them as part of an overall plan. But at a higher level, people want to know, no matter what I do, whether I do nothing, whether I keep the course that I'm on, or whether I take your advice, Lloyd, or take your advice, Dan, am I going to run out of money? Am I going to be okay? You know, am I going to be moving in with my kids?
So there's another component, I think, in Lloyd's question, and that is, what's the benefit or the advantage of using live software to illustrate a point?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked that question because I come from a background of neurolinguistics and cognitive science and how the brain processes information. And I think, Tim, not to put words in your mouth, but to me, it would seem that the software is a great credibility factor. If I'm talking to a prospect and I tell them that, you know, you're not going to run out of money, or you're going to run out of money at age 85, or whatever it might be, and I'm using maybe an illustration of an annuity or life insurance, but it's company based, that doesn't have quite the same credibility, I would think, as showing an objective source of numbers on the page that are highlighted properly. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're bringing up multiple facets there. Building trust with the people that you're meeting with, having an independent software program. You may be going with an insurance carrier's product, but have an independent software that says, if you know, based on your situation and all your income and investments, and if you do this, here's what the picture is going to look like. I think that does have a lot of it does add a lot to the meetings. And the biggest thing is people get confused and their eyes are glazed over. So by doing something at a higher level, you're engaging them and building trust. So if I got together with someone, I said, hey, let's just get together and see what, if anything, you need help with first. You know, you're like a doctor giving a diagnosis, but in order to give a diagnosis, you got to ask questions. Well, instead of the boring fact finder, instead of giving them 50 questions for homework, I can just open the software and start asking them, okay, how old are you? When do you want to retire? How much are you making in your job? About how much have you saved? Most people know the answers to these questions, and either they can input it because it's so simple, or the agent can input it, but it's live, it's in person, it's engaging. It's like a game almost, like let's get together and play this game of whether you have any red, and if you do, how do we get rid of it?
Well, that brings up a question. What kind of numbers can you put in there? You mentioned annuities and IUL. What kind of numbers can they put in? What if they have 401ks and they have money in the stock market and they've got RITs and ILITs and things like that? What can they put into the software? And how would you know? How would the advisor know that that's making a difference? Why would the consumer think that putting that number in there is going to change whatever their decision is on funding their retirement? And what exactly can you put in the software?
Well, I would say for our tool, you can put about anything you can think of. And I know that sounds vague, but that's the way it was designed. So you can enter an unlimited number of investment accounts, and you can set how much are in those accounts, what the return is. You can determine the tax type, which the program then knows how to treat it from a tax standpoint, whether it's tax-free or tax-deferred, qualified, non-qualified. So you can enter all your investments. You can enter Social Security. You can enter pensions. You can enter your spouse. That's one thing a lot of web tools don't do. They'll do a person, but they won't do the spouse. Well, what if you both work? What if you both have savings? What if you both have Social Security? What if you both have a pension? Our software puts all that into one picture. And then in addition to that, we have a thing called Cash Infusions that lets you enter an unlimited number of income items. And so it's kind of generic. It's like a little spreadsheet you can put this into, and you can enter things like, hey, I'm going to downsize my home and pull out 200,000 in equity. Or I have 2 rental properties and this is the rent I get from it. Or I'm going to sell my business. I'm going to sell a practice. Or I'm going to get income from an annuity or income from IUL or take loans from a life insurance policy. Pretty much anything that's either a lump sum or a series of payments, you can model and inject into the picture. So
is this a one-time entry, or if you enter it, is that frozen out, or can you make adjustments to it as you're doing it, or?
You can enter new things very quickly, and you can edit them and change them instantly and see the effect instantly on the picture. So there is a list that when you open the Cash Infusions, it tries to give you some ideas as to what you would use the screen for. That way you don't open it up and you're like, what do I do here? And so it has the common ones on there, like downsizing a home, annuity payment, selling a business, a part-time job, maybe life insurance proceeds. If you want to model someone dies at age 85 and they're going to get life insurance for the wife, proceeds that she gets. You can model any of these things. It's very flexible.
Yeah, so like my neighbor, her mother just died. She's 74 years old. Her father died last year. So her mother just died of vascular dementia. And she has a house that they just bought a couple of years ago. I don't think she has much in investments, but she does have some of his retirement and Social Security. So that's the kind of information that you would enter in, and then what would that have shown them?
As far as maybe selling her mom's house that she's passed away, I would enter it as a cash infusion. I'd say, okay, this year I want to try to sell my mom's house, and you know approximately what the value is. You could look on Zillow, for example. So let's say she's going to try to sell it for $300,000, and eventually, if she goes through this process, she'll know exactly what she's selling it for and what the net is. So under cash infusions, you could say, sell my mom's house, $300,000. I'm doing it now this year. It's a one-time infusion. You're going to need to put whether there's any taxes or not. Since she's inheriting it, that's a different question than if someone is married selling their primary residence. But you click one button and just injects that into the plan. So you can see before and after very easily how that impacts whether they run out of money, or if they run out of money, or if they do run out of money. Okay, you were running out of money at age 75, but now that you injected $300,000 of equity that you're going to invest or put into a specific product, now your money lasts till 83. So it'll show you in real time the impact of these changes that you make.
Does it, Tim, illustrate sequence of returns? So can you demonstrate, what would happen during a market crash and how that affects the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate?
Right now, it does not do that. One of the reasons we have not added that is because the software right now is in a sweet spot of being easy to use for the advisor and the agent, but easy to understand by the prospect, the client, the person they're meeting with. If you make it too complicated, once you go over that edge, it just destroys the value of the meeting. And our biggest concern has been that trying to explain how we're projecting into the future using prior return data requires explanation that can get in the way of the meeting. Now, I definitely understand the value of showing how sequence of returns on investments is a problem versus more of a fixed income type product, or at least an annuity that may not be able to go negative, and you can compare the two. So I definitely understand the value. Right now, our software does not illustrate that.
How about inflation, the effect of inflation on, you do have an inflation
Yes.
setting in there?
Yes, you can control the inflation factors on there's a way to model how much money they need in retirement. You can do it. The dirt simple way is like, how much do you need annually? And there's an inflation factor. But there's also a special expenses screen that you can layer things on top of that are either one-time items or multi-year items. And okay, on the screen there, red means you're out of money. So that's showing you you talk about the neurological impact or psychological impact. Red is bad, and red means you're going to run out of money. So you engage people, you get their attention. They're not eyes glazed over. They're like, oh my gosh, no one's put this together before. And now I see in living color that looks like I might have some problems. So yes, you can adjust the inflation, and that's a big topic these days. So you can literally just change the inflation and in 2 seconds see the impact on this picture.
And as you enter the numbers, that the graph changes in real time.
Yep.
I mean, it all sounds great. So let me ask what to me is the obvious question. Given how simple it looks like it is to use, I would think that like 95% of Dan's clients and 105% of mine would immediately sign up for this. I mean, your phone must ring off the hook 24 hours a day, and you must have so many advisors signing up that your site is crashing on a regular basis.
I wish it were so.
Yeah, I think he's being sarcastic.
Yeah, I know.
So why aren't advisors jumping all over this kind of stuff? I mean, there's at least 4 or 5 popular retirement programs out there. Why aren't they jumping all over it?
Well, first of all, they probably don't know about our tool as far as why they're not calling us and crashing our website. If they knew about it and they understood that it could dramatically increase their closing ratio, then I think it would be more of a stampede. But there's an educational process, just like an agent advisor educating a client about an annuity or IUL. It's same with selling software. There's an education process that they have to go through. People want to try it. But the flip side is, as you mentioned, there's other softwares out there. And frankly, a lot of them are not that good. And so when advisors and agents try different programs and they don't find them useful, or they find them complicated, or they just never really close anybody with it, then they put all software in that same category, which is kind of not a good idea. We all know that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of restaurants out there, and we could go to a bad one and, well, I'm just not going back to that restaurant.
Right.
I'm never going to eat out again.
Yeah.
And then when you go to a great restaurant, you want more of that, right? So it's kind of like that. I think people try one thing and get a bad impression of the whole category.
So last week, one of the things Dan and I talked about, and I think this is germane here. So with Dan's program, I sign up as an advisor, upload my list. I pick an email series to go out for certain videos. It goes out, and if I remember the conversation last time, Dan, a lot of these agents are saying, well, I don't really want to call them. I want to send them a series of emails, because what they want is for the prospect to say, hey, oh my God, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Thank God you showed it to me. Can I come to your house and pay you in cash for it?
Yeah,
the agent doesn't really want to make the phone call.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and it's surprising. Even maybe it's not surprising. I think we all deal with the psychology of rejection and making phone calls to people who have not been forthcoming and aggressive, saying, "Hey, I'm ready to buy." But that's what we get paid for. So I think what happens, I know what happens with our customers is they engage somebody using one of our videos, and they know that somebody's watching the video, they're engaged in the topic, and it's oftentimes requires, in addition to some fact finding, it requires some comparison. They want to see some numbers. Too often, I think the agents say, "Hey, do you want a quote? I'll give you a free quote." Well, everybody knows that quotes don't cost anything, so offering a free quote is very cliche and it's demeaning. And but what people do want are objective comparisons and subjective interpretations. So I think that one of the things that we've tried to teach our customers is that when you get an engagement, when you get somebody who's watched a video and they're interested, maybe the first thing you should say is, would you like to see a comparison of what you're currently doing with how this plan works? And now you're not asking for an appointment directly. You're not asking, to sell them something. You're really leading them to the next level, which is, hey, would you like to see this side-by-side comparison with what you're already doing? That's an easier thing. I mean, that's a good transition. It's easy for an advisor to say something like that and deal with the answer to that. And it's very legitimate if they have the software. Say, I've got some software that's really cool, and you can plug in your numbers, and then it will tell you, how long you have until you retire, how long your money will last. I think that's an easy way to get an appointment, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is they get hung up on the money, right? They get hung up on what something costs instead of what they make. Like I was on somebody's show 2 weeks ago, and at the end of it, they made an offer to the people watching it. And to be honest with you, I thought the way they made their offer was kind of crappy. They just dumped it on here and said, it's usually this much. We're only going to do it for this much. Sign up today. And I was like, hang on a second. This is the commission off of 2 final expense plans. Okay. If you learn one tip today that's going to help you write 2 final expenses in the next year, you already paid for it. This is the commission off a $100,000 annuity at a 3% commission. Okay, this is half of that cost. So they don't monetize it in their mind and realize that the deals they leave on the table would have already paid for this, like a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I think it's even beyond that. I agree with you that you should always look at adding any tool to your tool belt, so to speak, metaphorically, for the ROI. What return am I going to get? So, one question for Tim, and then I'll let him maybe embellish this a bit, but any agent or advisor who in any way, shape, or form balks at adding technology and adding a tool that they can use to make appointments and tools they can use to help the customer buy, I mean, you're not a professional if you don't have something like this. Would you agree, Tim?
Definitely. Like you said, if you're a business owner, you're looking for an ROI on things that you invest in. Take our tool. It's not really that expensive. I had a guy, this is a recent example is why I'm bringing it up. A guy got on a webinar that I was on, ended up buying our software, but I had made an offer where they can use it for free for 30 days. So he didn't pay for anything. About a week later, he met with his first prospect and sold a $600,000 annuity. His commission was $35,000.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, I'm not going to mention his name. I said, hey,
how much has he paid for the software so far?
How much have you paid us so far for this?
Yeah.
He said, nothing so far. and he was on the monthly plan, so that didn't hit till like a couple of weeks after that. So like,
Wow.
if people know how much it impacts their sales process in a positive way, you think there would be like a stampede. I have one guy that doubled his closing ratio. He tracked it, and we went through the numbers. So he went from 3 point something out of 10 to 7.6 people out of 10 that he closed.
Wow. Wow.
By simply using our software as part of the process.
Yeah.
I had another guy that during COVID tripled his production from 5 million to 16 million by adding in our software as part of his process. I mean, that blew me away. That's probably about the best I've heard.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. It's a tool. And as I just, mentioned, and from a transitionary standpoint, once you have somebody even slightly engaged, instead of, can we schedule an appointment? Would you like to come into my office? Can I send you some information? Those are all ambiguous. They're weak. They're cliched. But if you come to somebody and say, hey, I've got this really cool software that will allow you to put in your numbers, and you'll see how long your assets are going to last. Mm-hmm. Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Well, that's an easy way to get an appointment. When you say, Lloyd, when you say if you were coaching a guy, wouldn't you instruct him to say, hey, use this as your appointment getter?
Yeah, I mean, when Tim and I were doing webinars, the thing I would tell advisors is you want to use words and phrases that indicate you expect action on their part. So if I married Tim's product with your product, Dan, mm-hmm. Here's the script I would give advisors. As soon as they get notice that somebody watched the video, let's say it's a video on an IUL, I make the phone call, say, hey, I see that you just watched the video on the IUL. What concerns you more? The interest you're losing, the principal you're not getting, or the taxes you get to avoid? And when they answer either one of those questions, great, let me show you in real time what the impact would do if you made just the change that you saw in the video.
Yeah.
And when you say, let me show you, if they don't stop you from moving forward, you're in a presentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is different than, let me gather some information, let me mail you something, let me schedule a time for you.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, I might get this fact wrong, Tim, but I think that the agent could actually do this online, right? Like, I think that if we screen share, you could bring the software up right now.
Oh, yeah.
I could give you my numbers and I could see in real time what the heck's happening.
Yes. Yeah, it's
that's the other side of it is once they watch the video, that's called intent marketing. They have indicated their intent, which is to find out more information about this subject. And that's exactly why when you go into a restaurant and the hostess seats you, she tells you three things. My name's Betty. I'll be taking care of you today. The second thing is, have you seen our special? And then, can I get you a drink? That's the three things they tell you. Here's my name. Have you seen our special? Can I get you a drink? And then she comes back with the drink. She tells you about the special. She comes back with the drink. Have you had a chance to look at the menu? Yeah, we did. What are we getting today? And she takes your order. She asks you questions about it. What dressing do you want with that? What side do you want with that? Then she brings it back to you. You start eating, and she comes back halfway through the meal and says, hey, how's it going? Everything okay? Yeah, it's great. Then she comes back and says, did you save room for dessert? And you go, yeah, I'll take the strawberry sundae. And then she brings you the check. At no time did she ever ask you, hey, did you want to buy anything? So the video gives you the perfect inroad to talk about what they're interested in at the time they indicate the intent to satisfy that interest. And the illustration software gives you the opportunity to use proactive words that indicate you expect action on their part. Let me show you how that works in real time. I don't even need any numbers from you. You already know the numbers. And they go, well, I must be pretty smart if I already know the numbers.
Well, and that's and I'd like Tim to talk a little bit about this. I think from the sales process, the easiest thing to do, you allude to, a waitress in a restaurant, but the easiest thing to do in the sales process is ask easy questions that the prospect can answer. So, if you're filling out this, so how old are you today? That's it's a number that there's no hesitation on that. When would you like to retire? How much do you need to retire? Whatever the questions are, you're just filling in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the sales process. You're just directing the flow and taking it to its natural conclusion, which shows up in the software. Am I right, Tim?
Yeah. You're if people are asking you these questions, you'd have to say, stop, time out, I don't want to do this, run for the door. And virtually no one's going to do that.
And not to interrupt you, Tim, but they can see what the next question is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it's a great tool.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is a couple of things. One is the software stands there as an independent expert testifying as a witness that these numbers are true, that the guy didn't make it up. And if they participate with you, so we're doing this as a team effort as well. We're doing it together to find out what, if anything, you need help with. Okay? So again, you're coming together as a team and building that rapport and that trust, going through the exercise. The questions are easy. They see it live. The problem with a lot of softwares, which you asked earlier, are that the advisor and the agent is printing out this 80-page report and plopping it down. Okay. And I had one guy tell me he did this with another software, and what did the prospect tell him? He said, I guess I'll see you in a month. But what are you talking about? Well, it's going to take me at least a month to do this big report that just plopped on me. And then at that moment, he realized I shouldn't have given him that report. So, when you do those reports, they don't know where it came from. They don't know how you generate it. They don't know if you left something out. They don't understand it. They think you're like the wizard behind the curtain at the Wizard of Oz, like pushing these buttons and pulling these levers, and maybe you're tricking them somehow. But when you do it live and in front of them, they see it. They participate. It's fill in the blank simple. So,
right. Yeah. And you're also, that you're putting the advisor, the agent is in a position of being, helping somebody buy as opposed to selling someone. Everybody would prefer to help somebody buy. People love to buy. They hate to be sold. And if you can be the facilitator or the moderator, here's the software. The software is going to sell you. You're going to put your numbers in. The software is going to tell you what those numbers add up to. And if you're not happy with the answer, then you look to the advisor and go, well, what can we do about this? I mean, that's a no-brainer sales process. Wouldn't you agree, Lloyd?
Back in my day, when I was an active producer, I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was at a client's house in Johnston, Tennessee. And she had a $150,000 modern Woodman annuity. And at the time, I was really pushing Allianz annuities. And so what I did is I called Allianz, the 800 number, the agent desk. And this lady's sitting right across from me. Her husband's over here on his little recliner chair. She's sitting right across from me at the kitchen table. They were, the rooms were like right together. I get the guy on the phone and I tell him her story. I read the numbers. She's in the 6th year of a 7-year deferred annuity, $150,000 annuity. And the guy's telling me what she should do with it. And as he's telling me that, I'm repeating it to her and nodding my head. And guess what she's doing? Yeah, that sounds good. And so I said to him, she's okay with that. But I think that she does have one question. And I asked a question that I wanted to know about because I didn't know the answer. I didn't want her to know that I was too stupid to not know the answer. So I think she has a question that she's going to want to know the answer to. And I asked the question. He gave me the answer, and I pointed to her, like I have a tendency to do. I pointed to her, and I repeated the answer and nodded my head. And she said, yeah, that's fine. And I said to the guy on the phone, okay, I'm going to fill out the paperwork, and then I'm going to call you back. Is there a direct number I can call you back to confirm that we got the information correct? And he gave me the number. I handed her the pen. I had her write the number down. And then I walked out and I sold an annuity and I sold a med sup in that house. Imagine if I actually had the illustration software, I could have cut him out.
Yeah.
But I was smart enough to know that if she saw me on the phone with someone that she perceived as an expert, and I was responding to his advice, that she would respond to my advice. We would become a team.
Yeah.
And we, quote unquote, we
would make the decision.
His advice. The reason I tell that story is Tim said this, and Tim, you know me, so I'm going to give you credit for this twice, and then I'm going to tell everybody it's my idea. But you said the software stands as an independent expert serving as a witness. And that's what made me think of that story, is the advisors have to have the correct frame of mind about what tools they're bringing to the table. I talked to some advisors in this coaching class I did on Tuesday. And one of the things I told them is on your website, you should have a list of your team. Even if you're just an independent advisor, you have customer service people at your IMO. If you have someone that helps you with your website, that's part of your team. If someone does email marketing for you, that's part of your team. And the software program has to be part of your team, right? Do you think that's true, Tim?
Yeah, it's definitely part of your team. Yeah, it's an important selection. And,
so as part of that team, one of my questions is, what tips can you give advisors to actually help them get over that bridge and that nervousness about using the software? What's some tips you can give them? You have to have people that sign up for it and then never even use it. Mm-hmm. So what tips can you give them?
Well, first of all, don't do that. Don't sign up and don't use it. That's the worst thing. The people that don't use it, I had a guy I was emailing today that hasn't renewed, and he's like, yeah, I'm not meeting with anyone. Well, that's the one case where I probably can't help you. I mean, if you're not meeting with anyone, you're really probably not even in business.
Right.
But even if you really have no one to meet with, the easiest way to get meetings would be to go around to everyone, even groups, and say, hey, I got this tool. I can look at your retirement. We can see what, if anything, you need help with. Only takes 15 minutes. You interested? If you ask 50 people that, you're going to get a percentage of people say, yeah, that sounds like something I need to do anyway. Yeah, let's do it,
Yep.
So tips. So first of all, you gotta try it. You gotta use it. I would say use it early on. Don't wait till meeting 3. I think I talked to so many guys that have a 3-meeting process.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're going to drop out after the first meeting if they don't see any value.
Right.
If they don't think their time is being used wisely and that you're wasting it, forget meeting 2, and you can definitely forget meeting 3. So come in guns all out and give it your best shot. And that is to engage them directly with their info. Let them see their info. Let them put it in there. Let them see the impact on where they're going and how it's all going to play out. And right there, if you can do that, you've already added value to the relationship for free. Most likely they didn't pay anything for it. And immediately they're turning to you. Lloyd helped me with this. He says, when they see the red, Lloyd said, this is what you ask them. Is that what you were planning? I'm giving you credit for that one, Lloyd. And what are they going to say? No, that's not what we were planning. We didn't plan to run out of money. Okay, well, what do you want to do now? Well, that's why we're meeting with you, Tim.
Right.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is, if I could show you some options or some ideas or some strategies that might make your money last longer, or at least give you more guaranteed income for a longer period, would you be interested in seeing that? And what are they going to say? 99.9% of the time, yeah, sounds good. So it's like the sale with no sale required. It's like the restaurant illustration you gave. They're already there, and you're just moving it along. until they say stop. But most of the time they don't. Eventually you show them what they want to see, which is that their money lasts longer, and they'll bring up, okay, well, what do we got to do next? They ask the advisor, what are we doing next? How do I get going? Like, they sense that they've already made their decision and they want to cut to the chase and, like, where do I sign up? What do we need to do next?
Yeah, it's the shortest distance between 2 points: interest, decision. I mean, and it lets them drive the process. All you got to do is put them on the track and let them run.
Let me throw this out there for both of you. Your products are a little bit different than mine. People come in to me because they already know they have a problem, right? So they know the biggest problem is they don't have a script or they don't know how to handle objections. So they already kind of know that. So I think the first sale that has to be made, and this goes for me too, for all three of us, I think the first sale that has to be made is the advisor has to sell themselves on the fact that they bring value to the table.
Oh yeah.
And that having a tool like WebPress and Retirement View Pro, having those tools will highlight and illustrate the value they bring to the table anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if the advisor in their mind doesn't really have complete confidence that they're the answer for every prospect they meet with, that they're the answer, then that doubt, that self-doubt they have is going to be transferred to any tool that they look at. And they're going to equate the same value that they see in the mirror, which is themselves, to the tools they might use. At least that's what my experience is.
No, totally agree. I think that's, if they don't, if an advisor does not have the confidence, and an enthusiastic confidence, a confidence is sort of overwhelming when they come in, and that enthusiasm can be contagious. Of course, you don't want to sound like a used car salesman, but if you've got this software or you've got tools and you're confident, you've been through it, you've used it before, and you know that it works, then you're anxious to show it to people. Like Tim was saying, you could literally, go out, you could knock on doors in a residential neighborhood. I mean, maybe I'm being a little facetious here. You could go to businesses and you could just say, hey, look, if you would like, I specialize in retirement planning, and I've got this special software that will allow you to put in your numbers and show you how long your money's going to last and what your alternatives are. Like Tim says, who doesn't want to know that? Everyone, the only one who says, I don't want to know that is two people. One, I've already done it. I have an advisor and I've already done it. I know it, so get out of here. Or the other one is, you don't look trustworthy. You don't sound trustworthy. You've got gravy on your tie. Your shirt's wrinkled. Whatever it is, I don't want to do business with you. I love the idea of knowing that information, but I don't want it coming from you. Those are the only two reasons why they would say no.
Well, the other thing that I want to throw out there too is, I've always told agents for years, don't assume that the last agent that your prospect talked to was actually a qualified agent who knew what the hell they were doing. Your assumption, because they tell you I've already got an agent, is that agent, number one, knows what they're doing, and number two, is actually taking care of the prospect. You should never assume that. And the second thing is that today, this is 2020, 2 years, a little over 2 years in the pandemic, right? What's the number one issue that people who work from home are running into? The number one mental health issue in the workplace that people are running into? It is Zoom fatigue. People are worn out with having online meetings. Meetings have gone from an hour down to 30 minutes or less because people are sick and tired of having these meetings. It's actually an opportunity where you can do two things. If you just type in Google, I'm getting excited about this. Type in Google right now, and the number one social media tool to engage prospects. Type that in Google right now, whether you're watching this live or later. The #1 tool to engage consumers in social media. And what you're going to come up with is video. Everybody's watching video. That's why LinkedIn went to LinkedIn Live. Everybody's watching video. They get all their information from video. What website, what's the tool do people have on their phones right now that is taking over Twitter and Facebook? TikTok. It's all video. And now you have the opportunity to market using video, and you have the opportunity to take advantage of that intent marketing and convert them by illustrating their problem in real time in a way that engages them. You can actually screen share and turn it over to them and let them enter the information.
Right.
They don't even have to trust you. They can just have to trust your ability to type.
Well, that's true, but and I'm gonna argue with you a point you made earlier in this, what you just said regarding the agent that came in before you. I wasn't alluding to the agent that came in before. I was saying that this person had said, I don't want to see your comparison software because I've already done it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's not about me. I'm not trying to be your agent. I'm not. And I think that's a problem with a lot of agents and advisors, especially those who are, collecting assets under management, want to come in and do complete financial planning. They're selling themselves. And I've heard that before. Sell yourself, sell yourself. So in a way, that technique of selling yourself has become somewhat trite. And anything that becomes trite in the consumer market loses its efficacy. Mm-hmm. So what's happening now is, and you did say it, and I will agree with you, Lloyd, they want to get to the point. I don't want an hour meeting with you. I don't want a Zoom call. I don't want that. I want to get to the point. And if you come in and you say, I'm not selling myself, I don't want to do total financial plan, I'm not even going to bring any of those things up. What I'm asking you is, would you like to plug your numbers into a software program that's going to tell you exactly how long your money is going to last in retirement? Yeah. And if it's not what you want, it'll show you where you can make improvements. That's what I'm asking you. So you don't say yes to an appointment. You're not saying yes to me. You're not saying yes to financial planning. You're not saying yes to a fact finder. You're just saying, yes, I would like to see those numbers. And then how easy is that? Tim just made it easy. You just go, okay, we can do it online. I can come out and meet you. We can have a cup of coffee, but whatever it is, type the numbers in. Put the numbers in. Let's see what they add up to.
The other thing about, go ahead.
Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you just pointed out one of the biggest tips to using the illustration software, especially ours, is that when you go through that exercise and show them the picture, and if it's red, you have converted just like a casual acquaintance. They don't know who Dan is. They don't know who Lloyd is. They don't care about my company. You just injected urgency into the meeting. Exactly. Because now all of a sudden alarm bells are going off. I do need to do something. I've got to take care of this. I put this off for too long. People tell themselves, I put this off for too long. I knew I should have done something sooner. Well, now's the time. You got it in their face, and it's urgent. Yeah. And it's hard for them to now look away. Like the accident is in process. Yeah. They're captivated and engaged, and all they're going to want to know is, how do I fix this? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, selling yourself or doing a financial plan or retirement plan, that becomes secondary. Mm-hmm. The main issue is I need to solve this problem, and it's an urgent issue.
Mm-hmm. And I would pivot off what both of you said, because the phrase that you use when you show them that when they're going to run out of money, and they say, yeah, I guess I need to do something about that. That's the perfect opportunity to say, what do you want to do about it? And who do you want to do it with? Yeah. Because they're going to say, there's a good chance they're going to say, well, I'm not sure what I want to do about it, but that's why I'm talking to you.
Yeah, right.
Anytime you
Right.
can set it up so they say, that's why I'm talking to you, that's
Right.
like instant credibility for you. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
throw one more story out there. I remember in Kodak, Tennessee, I did an annuity with a guy that he had a stockbroker. Good friend of his, had him for years. And he had lost, I don't remember the exact numbers, but he had lost like $80,000 in the stock market. He had like $125,000 left. And I got him to roll that over into an annuity. The next day, the very next day, he calls the office. I was with Mutual of Omaha at the time. He calls the office and he said, hey, I'm really sorry. Appreciate your time, but I'm going to stay with my guy. That's the way he phrased it. I'm going to stay with my guy. And I was like, okay, it makes sense to me. You've had him for a long time. Can you mind if I ask what's going on? Well, he told me he could get me the exact same kind of annuity and stop the loss, because that's the phrase I use with him, stop the loss. And I said, well, you must be happy about that. And he said, yes, I'm very happy about that. I said, well, what was his answer to your question? And there was this long pause on the phone. And he said, what question? I said, well, when you ask him, when you lost your first $20,000, why didn't he move you into the annuity that he now knows he's got that would stop the loss? When you lost the $40,000, what did he say when you said, why didn't you move my money over then? When you lost the $80,000 when I showed up at your house, what did he say when you asked him, why didn't you move the money when I lost my $80,000? And there must have been, I'm not exaggerating, a 45-second pause in the conversation. And I didn't say a word. And it takes some balls to not say a word, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's hard to do.
You have to just
especially
stand there. And he came back and he said, yeah, just go ahead and put the paperwork through, Lloyd. I'm going to go ahead and do the
Yeah. Yeah. It's always about the questions you ask and how you ask them.
And that's my point. The illustration, I'll read it. We got to kind of wrap this up. We're getting up to the end of time here. But the software stands as an independent expert serving as a witness. And that's why you should not be afraid. That's why that if you use a video to market to consumers, the minute the consumer watches that video, you should be on the phone like that. Because that video just stood as an independent witness to the expertise of the problem they're in. And them watching it tells you they're concerned.
Yep,
and when you make
exactly.
that phone call, you use phrases that indicate you expect action on that part, which is, let me show you how that problem would work out for you.
Mm-hmm.
It takes less than 15 minutes. I just sent you a link. Boom, you're in it.
Yeah.
But you've got to believe it. You've got to believe that you bring value to the consumer. And these tools are no different than, like, I had rotator muscle surgery. My doctor did two things before I had the surgery. He sent me to the hospital to have blood work done, and he did a CT scan on my shoulder. I couldn't get an MRI because I have a pacemaker. He did a CT scan. He used other resources to support his decision to do business. It seems like it's common sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we got to end it.
Yeah,
Tim, thanks for being on. Go ahead, Dan.
No, yeah. One last thing. Metaphorically, with your shoulder, that if he had just grabbed you by the shoulder and kind of moved it around a little bit, and he says, "Oh, you've got a torn rotator cuff or whatever," wouldn't you kind of go, "Yeah, maybe I do, but I'd sure believe it better if I had a CT scan to look at," right? Anyway, I just had to.
When I first got my pacemaker, I got it done in Des Moines, Iowa, and when I came back to Atlanta, I had to go see a heart doctor. Well, I've never had a heart doctor before. And the heart doctor called in the company that read the pacemaker, and they talked out in the hallway. And then the doctor came in, and the doctor asked the guy from Medtronics something about one of the codes. And the guy said, "Oh, that pacemaker doesn't read that." And the doctor literally said, "Oh, that's one of the cheap ones then." And I said to the doctor, "You missed the bedside manner class, didn't you?"
Yeah, right.
Oh man.
Right. Well, Tim, it's been a pleasure talking with you. And I really think, the software, what your software does is immeasurably valuable to any advisor or agent. And they should all be using, if not yours, some software that does what yours does.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on today. I hope I shared enough. I think we could talk for another hour or two, frankly, but hopefully we highlighted some of the.
Well, we can have you back again. We can have you back again. It just depends on what our audience wants to talk about, and we'll address those issues.
In the banner at the
I
bottom
want to see
there,
Tim
is
back
the website
again.
for
Put it
Tim.
in the comments right now.
Yeah, right. Easy
in the bottom
enough
there,
to do.
in the banner is Tim's website, so you can go look at his software if you want to. Yeah, I
Right.
appreciate you being on here, Tim. As Tim knows, I've looked at a lot of retirement softwares. In fact, I've had a couple of companies approach me to try and get me to promote their stuff. I think every program out there, every software program out there, has its audience and has its place. But I'll tell you what the most critical criteria for me in looking at retirement software programs is utilization. So the reason I mention this is there's big companies out there, I won't mention them, there's big companies out there that pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a software program on their website and make it available to all their agents. And they'll comment, we have 35,000 agents and we've got this company software on there. And the first question I always ask them is, what's your utilization?
Yeah.
Because if you got 35,000 agents out there, and even if you've got 1,000 agents sign up for it, but only like 100 or 200 use it every month, that could be a problem. And then the second part of the project, just like with your program, Dan, there's companies out there that say they do videos,
Right.
but what they do are these little videos that you get made on Fiverr.
Right.
That has the hand drawing stuff like that, and
Right.
the narration voiceover. That's what the video actually is. But
Yeah.
they charge big bucks for doing it. Like $500 for one video. But again, what's the utilization and what's the support to it? So believe in yourself. You have to have resources, just like any good doctor does, any auto mechanic does. Anybody that runs a business has resources and experts they go to. I'm a big believer in what Steve Jobs said. Steve Jobs said he doesn't hire people so he can tell them what to do. He hires people smarter than him so they can tell him what to do. And I think that's true. I think you hire a company like WebPress Video because they're an expert in what they do. And then you shut up and listen to them. And I think you get retirement software programs from whatever company you feel comfortable with. I think Tim's program is a great program. And then you actually listen to what they tell you to do. And then if you want sales training, I might be able to help you with that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
All right, guys. Appreciate you being on here. And this is up on LinkedIn. It's up on my Google channel, and it's up on Facebook. Type your comments in there. I do read all the comments. If you have any questions, we will respond back to them. Tim, again, thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for having me on here.
Dan, I'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks.